All right, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Giving double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. And giving double honors to all the brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to go into a discussion or a video that was taking place by Tariq Nasheed and how, brothers identify with quote unquote the continent of Africa, but they say that because they had an ethnogenesis, that basically they not those people anymore. So let's look up the word ethnogenesis real quick. So it says ethnogenesis referred to the process by which new ethnic groups are formed, encompassing both self-identification and external categorization. This process involves the emergence of a distinct group with a shared identity based on factors like culture, language, history, and social treatment. Let's look up some more definitions. It said ethnogenesis highlights how new ethnic groups come into being, often through a combination of self-identification, external perceptions, emergence of a common social structure. The process involves the development of shared norms, values, and practices that define the new group. Right? So basically, what the definition is really talking about is that, like in our case, we've been separated from quote unquote the continent of Africa for so long that we're no longer those people. But that's not true. See, that's not true. It's because you have Italians that has never been to Italy before, but their ancestors come from Italy. You got Asians, who we call Chinese. They come from China, different parts of Asia. They never been there before. Those people have never went through what you would call the ethnogenesis. So, in my view of the definition, is that an ethnogenesis is just people basically divesting themselves from where they come from, and they're taking on, quote unquote, a new identity. And one of the new identities of our people is, quote unquote, blacks, African Americans, colored folks, FBAs, right? ADOs, all these different names. But it's not really identifying the baby, right? So I want to play a little bit from the video. This is fair use, and I want to go into what it is that I'm
It's
talking about. Let's look at
what's
this.
the name of the country again? I'm sorry.
Arnold, you're from where?
Niger,
Equatorial
right?
Guinea. I'm
Oh,
not
Guinea.
from there.
He's
I'm from the
Equatorial
United
Guinea.
States, but I have roots there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right. But there are many countries in Africa who don't even consider themselves the same people. You know that, right?
Well, of course, not the same people culturally, but we all know we're in the same race.
Yeah. They say they're different people altogether. Even you would take a look at the European nations, right? The French don't consider themselves British, and neither one of those consider themselves Russian, and they're right next to each other. And as Flex pointed out earlier, the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, all those people. There's a
And check this out. The guy, he makes a good point, right? He makes a good point. Everybody in Europe is not the same people. But see, what's so different about that situation and ours is that our identity has been taken away from us. See, even though the Spanish, the Italian, the French, the British, all of them are quote unquote Europeans, right? Because even though the Europeans themselves come out of quote unquote Africa, but Europe is really their Africa, is because that's where a lot of the Europeans come from, right? With that being said, those people, even though you have some of them, they have never been to Europe before. They have never visited their country. And if you ask them if they want to go back to their country, sometimes they will even tell you no. It's because they love America, right? But if you ask them what their nationality is, where they come from, they're going to be able to tell you that. The problem with our people today, even if you love America or not, they can't identify themselves. So what it is that we do is we come up with these new modern terms, ethnogenesis, meaning that you're going to cease to be who you once were, and you're going to take on a whole new culture and a whole new identity. And what is our culture up here today, to be honest with you? It's slave culture. See, it's slave culture. What is the culture that we have taken on? It's because, to the Nigerians or wherever the brother come from, to his credit, we want to say that we're not from quote unquote Africa, right, or the continent of Africa, but a lot of our culture and the way that we do things come from that region, right? So in one breath, we're saying that we're something else, but some of our culture goes back to that continent, right? And also, what is the other culture that we have taken on? We have taken on European culture. A lot of us celebrate Christmas. A lot of us celebrate Easter. See, we celebrate all these holidays that we have taken on, like Black History Month, Juneteenth, all this type of stuff. But even though those people made major contributions to our advancement in this country today, it's still what you would call slave culture. Let's look at this. Let's look at the 17th chapter of the book of Jeremiah, 4th verse. And thou even thyself it says, and thou even thyself shall discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not, right? For ye have kindled a fire and it says, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. And see, that's not talking about forever, ever. It's just talking about the duration of us being in slavery. See, what the so-called black man don't understand is that we're not even indigenous to the west coast of Africa. We're indigenous to what you would call Northeast Africa over there in Jerusalem. But the problem with our people is because we have been disconnected, just like the Creator said, from our heritage. Every time you talk about Jerusalem, you think of the so-called white man. That's what we think of. Every time you think of the people in the Bible, we look at the European. But in actuality, the Bible per se is talking about a group of people that rebelled against the Creator And as a result of this, their children is in what? They're in shambles. See, our people is in shambles in this country. And the reason why we call ourselves FBAs, Foundational Black Americans, is because this is the only land that we have been on for the past, I think, 500 and something years. But in actuality, the land that we're sitting on is a prison. See, it's a prison. And just like in prison, Tariq knows this is because he's been in prison before. So when you're in prison, right, within every group of people, we're just using this for educational purposes. If it's black, white, purple, or orange, you have, in each group, you have what you would call the poor, middle class, and the rich. See? So look at the so-called black community of today. You have the poor, the rich, the middle class, and the rich, right? But in actuality, where do we get the riches from? We got the riches from what? Commissary. Is because who is the COs? The COs is your mayors, your police department, right? Your senators and things of this nature. People that controls the corporation per se. But the so-called black man, he's a prisoner. See, and you got some prisoners. Like, let's take for instance, you got Larry Hoover, you got Jeff Ford. They are millionaires. It's because they control stuff. And then you got certain people that's poor, which is the masses. They don't control anything. They just living by and by. So you have a lot of people. The reason why I'm saying this is because you got a lot of people, they don't want to leave prison. Believe it or not, you have people in jail right now, they don't want to leave prison because they have accumulated a lot of wealth in prison. They know everything about prison. And you would think, man, why would a man want to be in jail with a bunch of hard legs? One of the reasons is because he has developed himself in prison. He got a lot of money on commissary. He can do as he want. His cell is decked out. He got all type of pictures, TVs, books, all type of stuff. So you have certain people that have accumulated this. It's hard for them to leave prison because they don't see themselves doing the same things that they did in prison while they outside of prison. And that's the same thing dealing with our people. Is because America is a modern day prison. And you have a lot of us, we have accumulated a lot of wealth. We have, jumped over many hurdles in prison, right? And a lot of us are well-to-do in prison. So when people start talking about Africa and things of this nature, it's very difficult for us to see that. Is because all we see is America. See, that's all we see. We can't see nothing else. And that's really disheartening, is because there's a greater world outside of America. Even though we see Tariq Nasheed, they always talking about suspected white supremacists and things of this nature, which, and everything that he's talking about, when we talk about white supremacy, is true. But even with all that stuff going on, they still want to stay in America. So that's why the scripture said, the 17th chapter of the book of Jeremiah, verses 4, and thou shalt, it says, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thy enemies. And who are we serving right now? See, we're serving the so-called white man. See? That's what we doing, whether we like it or not. And when I look at Tariq Nasheed, the brother is doing very well for himself, but he's what you would call a high-level shot caller in the black community. You got to look at him as a high-level shot caller in the black community that has accumulated a lot of wealth. He has a following. See, you got a lot of people that refer to themselves as FBAs. See, but that's not a nationality. Where's the language at? What language do you speak? Where's your flag? See, they say that America is theirs. America is not yours. This land belongs to the so-called white man. And even if it is your land, you're not going to get it back. It's because, see, America is under divine judgment. America is under divine judgment of the Creator. America is going to be blown off of the face of the map. And what people don't understand is that America is sitting on what you would call nuclear weapons. One of the reasons, like I said, our brothers can't see themselves living outside of America is because they feel like they can't make it outside of America. But the Creator right now, He's going to take that spirit off of us. Let's look at that. Let's look at this Jeremiah. The book of Revelation. The book of Revelation, 7th chapter, verses 1 through 3. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on the trees. And what is that talking about? It's talking about mass destruction that's finna happen amongst the Europeans. Because the trees are symbolic of what you would call the infrastructure, the system per se, and the sea and the waters and stuff like that is symbolic of what? The people, see, in mass confusion. So it says that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And what is the wind? That's the destruction that's going to come. And it says, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power, and he cried with a loud voice, and it says, to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads. See, and one of the reasons why America is not going to be destroyed until the nation of Israel is gathered up and led up out of here. So a lot of these brothers, these FBAs, these ADOs, which I got a lot of love for, but they don't understand the destruction that is about to take place. America is falling, see, it's circling down the drain. But this is the mindset that we have today. Let's look at this, Psalms 49 and 11. The book of Psalms 49 and 11. This is the mentality that we have today. Psalms 49 and 11, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They shall call their lands after their own names. See, See, when they start talking about ethnogenesis and stuff like that, they want to be able to teach that to their kids. They want to teach that to their kids, but that's not their kids' real culture. That's not who they are. See, we are the descendants. We are the natural and the spiritual descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But you got a lot of these brothers, they don't even believe in the Bible. And if they believe in the Bible, they come to it from a religious standpoint of view. Either they Christians or they Muslims or something like that. But they don't identify with this. So that's why in their inward thoughts is that America is always going to be here. We're going to continue to fight global, global terror amongst the people that's in the country. These brothers still talking about the 14th Amendment to the Constitution and all the strides that black folks have made for that all these other so-called black immigrants to come over here, which is true. That's not a false statement. But the country that we know as America is going to be destroyed, brothers and sisters. This country is circling down the drain. And look here, there will be a civil war, another civil war that's going to take place on the shores of America. And a lot of these folks are going to be ushered into it. It's because when they hear the truth, a lot of them is not going to believe the truth. And they don't even to this day. Who made the Bible? King James was a homosexual. See, this is the mentality that we have, is because, see, we can't see ourselves outside of this country. It's because if you don't have true culture, if you don't have a true awareness of identity, you're going to be running around here calling yourself everything except the child of the Most High. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, peace, shalom.